going on? It's Pump Monday, and we just finished all the mowing. Really have not had a chance to wash this thing all weekend. I was gonna do it Sunday originally, and then I got busy. I really just needed a day to get away from lawn care. I still need to do an oil change even, and I haven't had a chance. So at least I finished with all the mowing today, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go take a car wash. And let's do some cleaning. Now, I didn't bring any super clean with me, which I normally would, but I didn't know I was gonna stop. If I did, I would have dropped a few bottles in the truck. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. All I want to do is kind of just rinse it down from the last week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks since I really washed it last time. And yeah, so we're gonna just rinse it down, clean it up, and then I need to do some oil change on it. So I'm thinking maybe tomorrow, if I finish early enough, I'll go knock out some oil change. I think there's this one and a couple other mowers that I need to do some oil changes. And I still have the nail in the 36. It's holding air, but after like a week, I have to put some air in it again. So I may need to just plug that and get that out of the way. But let's wash this thing. But one thing I do want to talk about is customers dropping you, or at least not necessarily dropping you, customers canceling on you after you let's say a customer calls you and they want a quote. I thought a car was headed this way. I'm like, wait a second, I'm here. And you give them a price, and then you say, hey, this is my service call, but if we get on a weekly or a bi-weekly schedule, like a regular routine, these would be my prices. Most likely the prices, if they get on a regular schedule, would be a little bit cheaper than your service call, right? A service call is just like a one-time deal. And so they say, yeah, I'd like to get on a weekly or a bi-weekly. And so you give them that price, and then like a week or later or 2 weeks later, they say, it doesn't need it. It can wait another week or two. How to go about that? Or what about those people who say, yeah, you know, would love to get on schedule, and then like you give them that first cut and then they just say, oh, I don't need you anymore. How do you go about that? What you can do to protect yourself, protect your business, and not lose any money. Stay tuned on that. In the meantime, let's get this bad boy washed up before we lose even more daylight. And I'm not sure if we're gonna talk about that here or if we're gonna talk about it when I get back to the crib. Let's go. Okay, there it is. Like I said, nothing too crazy. It's not like I had any super clean on me. This was more of just kind of like a little rinse down. It's not even perfect, but a lot better than what it was, because it was getting really, really nasty. And this is the mower that I mostly use about 99.9% of the time. So yeah, all done. We're gonna go ahead and load her up. All right, ninjas, we're back home. Just wanted to finish the video, of course, and let you know, or give you a little tip, I guess you could say, of what you should do if you're in a situation like that. By the way, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the washing of the mowers. Really about the only thing I got to show you. And I was gonna do some recording today of mowing, but had a bit of an interesting day. So, but anyway, what I wanted to tell you is what you can do to protect yourself if a customer calls you up and you go check out the yard, and then you give them a quote, right? And then you ask them, I would hope you would ask them, hey, do you want a weekly quote or a bi-weekly quote? Bi-weekly quote. At least I know I always ask them that. And I'm trying to stand right here where the light is so you guys can see me, because I know it gets pretty dark in here when it's when it gets dark, even with the lights. So I always ask them, I say, hey, do you want a weekly or a bi-weekly? So here, let me go back a little bit. Basically, when they call me, I instantly tell them over the phone, okay? My service call is this much. You should always have a service call. And then I say, but we do adjust prices if you're wanting a weekly consistent or bi-weekly consistent, right? as long as it's an ongoing thing, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. And as I mentioned to you, I'm going to try to really work hard for next season to push more for the weeklies. I think it's a little bit easier on your body and your equipment, and you know, you just go through them a lot faster. But the bi-weeklies are good too. You know, there's good money in them, but man, it's definitely plays a toll on your body and also just your equipment. So anyway, and so that's what I tell them. Now, unless you're doing some kind of a legal contract, this would kind of, I guess, not work for you, because at that point you've got a legal contract, you've got them to sign. If they ever try to goof off or, you know, kick you to the curb, so to say, then, you know, you've got other options. But this is for a lot of people who don't do legal contracts, but also for people who are just starting out. This is a really good tip for you, okay? Really good tip. So when you tell, I'm going to throw some numbers out, and they're just example numbers, okay? This is not a reflection of maybe what you guys should do, or a reflection of what I'm doing. It's not my prices, all right? So like if I get a call, let's say, and it's like, they call me and I answer, and they say, hey, how much would it be to get our yard mowed? And I always ask them, well, I always tell them, I say, listen, I have to look at your yard to give you a quote. Okay, I said my start service call is $50. So if your yard is $40, $50, $60, I'll probably do about a $50, right? Even if it is a little bit, if it's a bigger yard and I feel like it's probably a $60 yard, I'll do $50 because that's my service call. But I'll also still hold on to my price and still tell them it's a $50 service call, even if it's a $40 yard. Okay, because that's my service call. And this is where it's important. Pay attention, ninjas. So I go up there and I look at the yard and I go, okay, yeah, it's a normal little grainy yard, or, you know, just a medium-sized yard. Service call is $50. And they say, okay, well, what if we want a weekly service? I say, well, your first cut is still a $50 cut. That's our service call. And keep in mind, these prices I'm just throwing out. But if you wanted to go weekly, we can do it for 35 or 40. Okay, whatever. Just an example. I know when you throw out numbers, people are like, oh, no, it's just an example. And they go, oh, okay, so 35 for weekly. Cool, cool, cool. Now what about bi-weekly? Now bi-weekly, I would say maybe like 40 or 45. Okay, so there's a little bit of an increase because what we just talked about. Extra growth, right? More wear and tear on your equipment and your body. So that's what I tell them. Now what happens, and let's say they agree for a weekly or a bi-weekly, it doesn't really matter. And so you go ahead and cut that yard for $50. And then like you show up in a week or two, right? Whatever you guys are agreed to do, to the schedule that you guys agreed on. And so you show up again and no problem, you cut it 35, 40 or 45, weekly, bi-weekly. And then like the next week or the next time you come out there, you start cutting, and they want to come out of the house and go, hey, stop. James, you were just telling me that happened to you. Anyway, local ninja. So what happens, you stop and you're like thinking, oh, maybe they want to quote for something else. And they go, oh, yeah, I don't have the money, or, it doesn't really need it. It's only ankle high. Doesn't really need it, Nick. What do you do? Well, first of all, don't ever put yourself in that situation where you show up at someone's house and start cutting and they stop you. That's not going to happen. And how's that not going to happen? Because you always want to communicate with your customers first, right? Even if you have them on a regular routine schedule, always the night before. Like here's an example. Tonight, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to spend time with my son, my wife, catch up, make my list, upload this video for you guys, right? And I'm going to make my list, and I'm going to shoot a real quick text to all the people that I need to text, the ones that I don't have a card on file, and let them know, hey, just to let you know, quick note, I'll be there tomorrow. Just in case something ever pops up where they go, hey, it doesn't need it. Or, hey, I don't have the money. I don't make that trip out there for nothing, okay? That's how you handle that. So that way you don't show up at anybody's property and then they tell you, I can't pay you. You're screwed out of money. okay? But what happens if they don't come out of the house and go, oh, stop? What if you do follow exactly what I just told you, and you text them and you say, hey, Mrs. Smith, I'll be there tomorrow just to let you know. And she all of a sudden replies and says, I don't really need you tomorrow. Doesn't really need it. But Miss Smith, Mrs. Smith, you told me every week now I depend on this money. This is my livelihood. So what do? This is what you do. Make sure you explain it to your customer. And you say, Mrs. Smith, my service call is $50. Weekly is $35. Again, just examples. Bi-weekly is $45. And she agrees for weekly. And so you text her and you say, Mrs. Smith, I'll be there tomorrow. And she replies, I don't need you, Nick. What do? So this is what you do. You say, okay, Mrs. Smith, I thought we had agreed that it's a weekly service. I have got you on schedule. You know, the grass is probably, look, unless you're in a complete drought, now that should be something where you got to be a little bit understanding, right? There's a complete drought. There's nothing there. But if it's just to her preference that it doesn't need it because she's wanting to save a little money, this is what you do. So you say, Mrs. Smith, we agreed to 50 and I'm doing it for 35 because we agreed on a weekly. 50 was the first time, and we agreed on a consistent basis, weekly consistent basis for 35. Yeah, but it doesn't really need it. I mean, it kind of does, but yeah, you're okay. Okay, Mrs. Smith, that's fine, but I will let you know the next time you call me, as long as it's not overgrown crazy. Now that would be an upcharge for overgrowth. But if you call me next week, we got out of rotation. So now you're paying again that first service call, which is 50. See, that's what you need to do. That's what these customers don't understand, is there's a lot that plays in this. It's not about that extra $10, $15 particularly, but I mean, it is at the same time. There's a lot that goes in it. It's not as easy to just be like, oh, I got you, I'll mow it. Oh, you don't need it? Okay, cool. It screws up my schedule. It messes me up completely. Now I got to change my rotation. What if, and here's why it's so important, ninjas. What if you had a neighbor walk over from one of your yards and say, hey, would love a cut. It's a big yard, $100. How about it? You can go ahead and cut it weekly, and you actually turn him down or her, and you say, I'm sorry, my schedule's really full. I would love to help you, but if I take on your yard, I won't make it to all my yards for today. So you turn it down because that's the right thing to do. Okay, you take care of your customers first, and then if you have extra time, you put people on schedule. So here you are, you just pushed away $50, $100 job, right? Whatever it is. So you're counting on that, and all of a sudden, the customer that you're counting on turns you down. So what do? That's what you do. So they'll never do it again. And if they do, each time they do it, they're going to pay the service cost. There's a service cost of a minimum service call. Service call, doesn't really matter. You get the point, ninjas. You got to have that minimum. And if people want to play games, they can play their games all they want. But it is what it is. I hope that's helped you. Okay? I really do, because I'm going to be real honest with you, ninjas. I've been played a lot from customers. I have. Luckily now I've weeded out a lot of the bad ones, and I've got some seriously good, loyal customers. Some are even friends. So, but I've had to go through a lot of stuff to get to that point. And look, I'm not really close with all of my customers, but more yes than no. And I've had to go through a lot of stuff where I didn't get paid. We're going to get into another topic on another video at some point where I didn't get paid in what I did. Okay, I know I've mentioned it before here and there, but I never really gone into detail. And yeah, that's important. You give them that discount to get on a routine schedule. They're on a routine schedule for a reason, because you've already got your schedule made. I hate it when they cancel on you the last minute. Anyway, enough. I don't want to turn this into a huge talking video, but I wanted to really share that, even though I didn't get a chance to do any mowing. But I felt like this was really important. I was thinking about it all day, and I was like, I don't think I really shared that. And if I have, I apologize to some of you, but I know there's a lot of new people to the channel, so you know, even if I have said this before, somebody will hopefully benefit from this. So thank you, my ninjas, for watching another video. Boom! Monday. Even though, like I said, not as much mowing. Hopefully that'll be a different story tomorrow. Hey, I think next week, we got some demos coming. So we'll start demoing some mowers. I think this particular company is bringing me a mower. And then I'm also going to be going around some local dealers and getting some other mowers to demo. I like demoing. I kind of started that whole trend and I stopped. And so I think it's time for me to get back into that, because I do like to see what's out there. And I've always been that type of an individual. I just kind of stopped. A lot of it has to do is just because I got busy. I've had a lot of stuff going on, right, with employees and jobs and a mess. We're also going to talk about this whole thing with employees, all right? Because a lot of people think, well, you can't keep any employees, Nick. Shut your mouth. You don't even know what it's like here. Just ask Dr. Real. Is a huge difference. A lot of people here in the South will understand what I'm saying, but from what I've been told from Dr. Real, there's a huge difference between the North and the South. He said up there is the worst day up there is like nothing here. And the worst day here, he's like, I'd probably pass out up there. Did I say that correctly? Or vice versa? Anyway. All right, ninjas, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at Thunder Pumper Tuesday. I can't pretend like, ooh, I hear thunder. I'm in the house. Well, I could technically hear thunder. All right, enough. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Peace.